and gentlemen, welcome to Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Retweet.
Welcome everyone to Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Retweet on Patreon, and welcome to the Retro Review. Today's Retro pay-per-view is WrestleMania 2000. A pay-per-view, that does not stand the test of time. On a pay-per-view where Vince McMahon allowed his family to run roughshod over the event, I'm joined by two people who are only here because it's their cousin's podcast. Please welcome the Shane and Stephanie of Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Retweet, Gary Kernan and Derek Kernan.
You're Stephanie.
I was going to say, we very much have that not love-hate relationship that the Mans have, just more like a hate-hate relationship with Stephen.
Definitely.
Is your poor nanny like Linda McMahon? She just gets caught in the middle of all this and needs to put up with you.
She hates Stephen as well.
I think that makes Stephen Stephanie then, because she's the one that always gets slapped by Linda.
Yes.
I have to say, this 3 hours 21 minutes of my life I'll never get back watching this pay-per-view. I'm grateful that it was only 3 hours 21 minutes and not the 6 or 7 hour marathons that many are now.
Definitely, I totally agree with you there. This is the height of Vince's madness, I would say. And watching this, it's amazing how much stuff you forget, down the line without just remembering just Vince's craziness.
I think as well, this is. I mentioned on the Rumble match itself, there's a lack of star power. When I reviewed it with Nathan, and I said with Scott as well when we reviewed No Way Out, Dudley Boy's New Age Outlaws, Billy Gunn leaves because he's got a neck injury. It feels like a tag team, the New Age Outlaws, that were very much 90s, and the Dudleys were going to be like defining teams of the 2000s. It does feel like they're at a sort of crossroads here, where the likes of, Mean Street Posse and, Kai and Tai, who wouldn't be around much longer, and then the likes of Benoit, Guerrero, the rest of the Radicals who were coming in at this point. It's sort of a change in the guard. 1 year later, when we review WrestleMania 17, it's night and day. So, just before we start, a wee bit of housekeeping. At Suplex Retweet for all the social medias, that's Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Eat, Sleep, Suplex Retweet community, you can find us on Facebook, have a wee discussion, a wee chat. Suplex Retweet on Anchor, iTunes, Spotify and all Android podcasting sites for reviews, previews and interviews. Try saying that 5 times fast. All free content, and obviously our website suplexretweet.com. If you can't remember any of the links I gave you, they're all there on suplexretweet.com. We also have Patreon, $4 a month for the Super Suplex level, and that gets you access to all the great shows. £6 a month is the Taboo Tuesday level, and that allows you to interact with our upcoming shows such as Hot Tagline and Time to Play the Game. But let's try and get this over with, lads, because I don't think this is one we're looking too forward. I think we're looking forward to slagging it more than anything.
Yeah, there'll be some good banter.
Yes. If you think we're going to be negative here, guys, go back and listen to the Rumble 2000 and the No Way Out 2000 review, where we're very positive about two really good pay-per-views. And then watch WrestleMania 2000 and you be the judge of whether we're being too harsh or not.
On a more positive note to get started with, I thought the start was really good. I mean, with the pyro. And it's funny watching back now, you see, I think it was a rule at the time. I think it was 2 rules at the time, that any event that happened in 2000 had to have either be called 2000 or 2K. I think that was the law at the time, and also everybody had to bring a sign to the wrestling.
Oh yes. See, I talked with Nathan on the Rumble 2000 review. This is a golden age of signs. There is so many signs, so many just say, and certainly in here is gay. There is one that says...
Guy in the front row with that very sign.
There's one that says SLUT as an acronym, and it says Stephanie loves ugly testicles. As well, WrestleMania 2000, let's talk about that name, because it's reported that Vince doesn't like naming WrestleMania as WrestleMania, 30 plus, because he thinks it sounds old. What did he think WrestleMania 2000 sounded like? There's a hell of a big difference between 35 and 2000.
Yeah. Well, at that time they were moving away from the Roman numerals, which
Yeah.
has been a big factor, and then obviously the next year we get X7.
Yeah.
That comes from it. I thought it was just really interesting also seeing, I know there was a couple that came after this one, but seeing an arena WrestleMania
Yeah.
versus a stadium, I think they said was about 18,000 people at this, and then
Yeah.
the following year at X7, the Astrodome, I can remember the attendance, something like 60, 70,000 people at it. It's just so different.
Yeah.
See it?
This WrestleMania comes from the Anaheim Pond in Anaheim, California. The pay-per-view starts with Lillian Garcia singing the national anthem. God save the... No, sorry. Sorry. Land of the Free, Home of the Brave. Sorry, different national anthem. Keith David is the voiceover guy for the opening promo package. That guy makes all his money off WWE crossovers. He does that, he does the Monday Night Wars. I think he did about 40 other pay-per-view matches. The promo package announces the McMahons in every corner before it mentions the WWF champion Triple H.
Yeah.
And the hottest star in wrestling at this point, The Rock.
Yep.
They all get an intro. There is no mention of... See, if you were a first-time viewer of this, every McMahon is underlined with their name. Not one wrestler is there. And it's not like Vince going, oh, I'm in The Rock's corner. Oh, I'm in my... Stephanie going, I'm in my husband Triple H's corner. There's no mention of names.
It's the complete opposite as the way it should be, isn't it? It's always like the manager was supposed to elevate the star, so you put somebody with Bobby Heenan, so Bobby Heenan helps him get to the next level.
Yeah.
And with WrestleMania, this was a particularly important point that you're making, Ross, because yes, new people might have been watching it, but there'll be a lot of folk that watch WrestleMania that haven't watched wrestling from the year before, as well. WrestleMania is the big thing they get together and watch it.
Right, it's pretty much what Gary says here. You know, WrestleMania is the stable that people go and watch and see. You know, it's like me for American football. Me and my mates go and watch the Super Bowl every year. I have no clue what's going on, but I go and watch it because it's like a big, massive event, and people do that with WrestleMania. And you're right, when you see the picture coming up with the McMahons on it, you're like, are these guys, like people who didn't watch that, are these guys actual wrestlers? No, they're not. They are the heads of the company.
Wonder if you're trying to defend Vince McMahon, but it's part of the reason he made the decision, because there's no Austin, there's no Undertaker, there's no Shawn Michaels. They're all doing signings at Fan Access. What a lineup there was there. Does he think that they are the stars and they need to be in every corner, otherwise nobody would care about the match?
Well, something that Kenny McIntosh of Inside the Rope said was that Vince has got to the stage now, like current wrestling, where his big stars leave him. You know, The Rock left, Austin left, Hogan left, because they get to a point where they're so big and they've made so much money off of Vince, where they can go, well, actually, I can go do something else. The Rock went and did movies. You know, if Austin left today, you think AEW would have been slow and like giving him an offer. You know, guys can leave, so that's why the likes of Stephanie was so overpowered. Why the Authority went so long, while Triple H is still wrestling at the age of 50. You know, it's because the family can't leave. Even Shane get dragged back.
Yeah.
Opening match, D'Lo Brown and The Godfather.
See, just before we start,
There you go.
can I mention at least one positive
Go.
about it? There was a lot of debuts this year, WrestleMania
Yes.
debuts,
Yeah.
as well, for guys who come on to become, we'll obviously discuss them later on, but these guys come on to be massive parts in WWE going ahead in future. So I think that is one of the only positives that I think I could get from
Yes,
from
that's
this.
great of you.
The fact that, you know, there is a guys, like I say, we will mention them all later on, but these guys WrestleMania debuts, which is quite exciting.
Yeah, 9 of the WWE's, I think, legends at this point in time. You know, one we'll talk about later when we can't mention him too much because of what he did, but 9 debuts at WrestleMania and 9 guys who go on to define the Attitude Era.
Yeah,
As you
100%.
mentioned it.
Sorry, mate. just-
No, on you go. So D'Lo, I don't really want to talk about this match, so feel free to butt in. D'Lo Brown and Godfather versus Big Barry Buchanan and Big Boss Man.
Can I start with the Big Boss Man?
Go.
Big Boss Man is a staple of me and you, Gary, growing up. Massive part of, you know, the WWE when we were younger. He's one of the only guys I think that never won a belt. Did he win a belt?
He was hardcore champion,
Hardcore.
and also he became a tag champ.
Him and Ken Shamrock.
Yeah.
Never ever won a singles.
Never, yeah.
Considering how long he was in the company
Yeah.
as well for. Big Boss Man's one of my favourites. Didn't really particularly like the angle he was doing with him and Big Buchanan at this time as well, but Big Boss Man's always one of my favourites. So I can say that.
When you look at, we've had discussions on the show before about best Mania openers. I mean, the things you're looking for is something that'll get folk excited, will set a pace, will set a tempo. This match did none of those things. The only reason I can think that this went on first is because they had Ice-T singing the Godfather, to the ring. That's the only reason I can think it went on for it. I thought for a minute when I seen them coming to the ring, I mentioned this on the NXT review show, I like tag teams that look like tag teams, and obviously there's lots of throwing together teams at this point in WWE. And then I seen D'Lo sort of strutting to the ring with the waistcoat, and I thought, oh, he's dressed the same as the Godfather. And then the Godfather gets to the ring and he looks entirely different to the way he usually dresses. And I'm like, what's the point of that?
Do you think D'Lo maybe took Godfather's thing? Because they
He's like, oh, that was my clothes.
they thought, well, you know what, this shirt looks sort of pimp, whereas the waistcoat D'Lo was going to bring didn't, so like, we'll give you that. So yeah, as you mentioned, Ice-T, I think maybe part of the deal was, I get in, I get out, and I can go home. Because he lives in California. He wanted to be up the road for EastEnders stuff. Ice-T kicking it off, he's plugging the WWF Aggression album. Did any of you ever listen to that?
I think we must have had that.
It was the rap album they released, and Godfather reminds you pimping ain't easy. He says it 1,000 times for God's sake.
In this match, it's probably worth mentioning, it was a wee reminder of just how over he was, and the Hotrine move. It's funny when you people's elbow, Hotrine, we've seen these, they are not spectacular moves in any way, shape or form, but oh my god,
They get the crowd.
folk love it.
Well, something we'll talk about later on is how over both the Worm and the Stink Face are when we talk about Too Cool. But you know, there's, as you mentioned, WrestleMania openers, Derek. That's a show you hosted.
Yep.
There are some matches like Rock Austin, Hogan Savage, Lesnar Goldberg that scream WrestleMania. This match whispers Sunday Night Heat.
Yep. 100%. The only thing I was impressed with this match was the finish. Big Will Buchanan's leg drop from the top rope. I thought was quite impressive.
Yes.
I am clutching at straws here, trying to find some positive stuff here, but used to rip the thing, but I'm trying to find positive.
Friend of the show and friend of wrestling, Uncle Dave Meltzer, gave this 0.25 stars.
See, the thing is as well, like obviously Godfather was over with the whole train thing. Big Boss Man was just a rotten heel. He hated everyone and everyone hated him.
And his career was on the
the way
downward.
Yeah, it was very much at the end. The corporation had disbanded and he was sort of lost in the shuffle. D'Lo and Bill Buchanan were really athletic. I think maybe if you just did a singles match with them it could have surprised, but it's just sort of, as we've all mentioned so many times in this match, it's overbooked, it's a bit of a cluster, it's just there to get the celebrity involvement, and Big Bill Buchanan picks up the win for him and Boss Man with an absolutely fabulous leg drop. It's a sensational big leg drop. And then obviously at the end of the match, like David Hockney on the garage dance floor, Boss Man and Buchanan chase the women away.
It's funny because it's true.
The 3 o'clock winch.
Oh, almost got to fourth base. Anyway, anyone else wanting to discuss anything of this match before we move on, or are we kind of just...
No, let's just never speak of this match.
You've squeezed all the positive out of this.
I think that was the only positive of it, yeah.
So we go backstage to see Tim White telling the rules of the title match to the competitors in the Hardcore Battle Royal. 24/7 rules will be suspended before and after the match, and there's a 15-minute time limit. Gary, I know you're excited for this one. Just hold. We mentioned that a lot of thrown together tag teams in this show. You know, there's the likes of Steve Blackman, Al Snow, who we'll talk about later, Kane and Rikishi, D'Lo and Godfather, Boss Man and Buchanan. This match contains
legendary.
5 tag teams. It contains the Holly Cousins, Crash Holly and Hardcore Holly. It contains all 3 members of the Mean Street Posse. It contains the Headbangers. It contains the Acolytes. It contains Kai and Tai. The only 2 singles competitors in this match are Taz and Gary. Would you like to tell us who the other one is?
Future Hall of Famer.
Yes.
Viscera, hardcore champion for all of 6.5 minutes as well. This match, I've got to say, I think this is up there for like the most random match in
Yes.
WWE history. I mean, it was completely mental and I loved it. But the lineup of people in it, it's also called a Battle Royal. It's not a Battle Royal.
Yeah, it's
Why they call it that?
a scramble.
Yeah, this match, I loved it, and some of the action we'll talk about in a minute. But the tag teams, we've got a show made up of all sort of made up tag teams. Why not do like a tag team turmoil match or a 4-way match or something, and the winner of that becomes the #1 contender and gets a title shot at Backlash?
Well, something that I've seen it online when somebody was like fantasy booking this. No Way Out the month before, Edge and Christian won a match with the Hardys to become #1 contenders at WrestleMania. The Dudleys win No Way Out against Outlaws to win the tag titles. Somebody put, could you not put the Hardys in a turmoil match and the winner gets into the triangle ladder match, which we'll talk about later. It keeps the Hardys on the show, it gets the Hardys in the ladder match, and it gets all these other tag teams just out the road.
This is like the 2000 equivalent of the Andre the Giant Battle
Yes.
Royal. It's a way of getting folk on the show, but except as far as this show is concerned, they found lots of ways to get people on the show. Them all. 10 title changes in the 15 minutes that came up. I think we're quick at telling you who didn't become hardcore champion in this match, which were Takan Michinoko, Mosh, and both members of the Acolytes, the only people not to hold the hardcore title as this match.
Derek?
Quite interesting. It was an absolute cluster.
It's on demand, you can swear.
It's an absolute clusterfuck. Pretty much describing this, it was unreal. Me and Gary, before you came in, Ross, were talking about it, and just the amount of blood that, what was the guy, what was it?
Pete Gas was
Pete
bleeding
Gas.
like a
It
stuck
was
pig.
unreal. It was unreal the amount of blood that was coming out of that boy's head. It was just crazy. Like we said, obviously Viscera held the title for the longest during the match.
As he should have.
Yes, he
should have won the match.
Won it. Just to keep Gary happy, he should have won it. Viscera obviously, he was in the company for like 15 years, and that was his only
Singles title.
singles title as well.
Yeah, we've seen history.
You did see
We've seen
history.
history. We also should give props to whoever does Viscera's dry cleaning, because that little jacket he wears, and that must be a sweat fest when he
Yes.
gets backstage.
I mean, he's already a big bitty boy.
Aye.
There's a bit in his entrance which it's such quick thinking. This is Jerry Lawler and JR at their peak on commentary. Viscera sticks a middle finger up at a fan and Jerry Lawler clicks a flash, goes, he's #1.
I think it's worth giving props there, because the King and JR are the voice of my childhood, so many of them, and when you see them then, I think JR did it, from what I've heard of it, done a great job at Full Gear, but the King on Raw this week, oh my god,
He's brutal, isn't he?
it was like the human equivalent in nails on a chalkboard at times. There were so many bits in amongst here. The Viscera beating up people with the Japanese flag was a particular favourite of mine's. There were some really great shots with those like kind of baking trays.
Yes.
Aye.
The noise those things made.
There is, I can't remember who he hits, but Viscera just needlessly walks into the middle of the ring and yells, "Ah!" and then scalps somebody with a baking tray. And I don't know why, it just made me laugh for about I had to pause it. I laughed for about 5 minutes at it. It was just such a needless scream.
Yeah, we had Crash Holly busted open after 2 minutes of the match.
See,
2 minutes. And there'd be 2 title changes by that point as well.
The thing with Crash I liked beforehand, Tim White's going, in the 15 minutes there could be 1 change, 2 change, even 100. And then Crash turns to him and whispers in his ear and he goes, or there could be none at all, and the competitors roll his eyes. Crash Holly is pinned in 30 seconds by Taz. Then Viscera defies the odds, wins the hardcore title for Taz.
Yeah, body slams him into the ring post and then
just
lies
falls
on
on
him.
Tell me, Gary, how, in your opinion, did this title reign impact the business? Do you think like universal suffrage, it opened the door for other black superstars?
There was a proper WrestleMania moment in this, and I am pissed off that this moment doesn't get played. We see Edge and Jeff Hardy is at the spear. Mick Foley getting speared through the flaming table. Nobody ever mentions Viscera on the top rope. And the ring survived as well. The props, as far as that's concerned, there was a classic moment of the King in this match where Viscera's in the ring. He's still the champion at this point, and he describes the wrestlers around him as people circling the planet, and they then say, "What planet is he? Uranus."
See, Viscera, the fighting champion, when he wins it, goes after everyone. This is yet another reason why Viscera is better than R-Truth.
He's a fighting champion.
Yeah, Funaki, who gets the title off of Viscera, which is just wrong to say.
No, the San Martino style reign of Viscera had to end to a proper company legend, and Funaki was the man to do it.
He sprints backstage to make it a wee bit of shenanigans backstage, and then the title starts to pass around like a hot toddy.
Gets passed around like a scud book in a prison.
See, the thing is as well, it's about organised chaos for about 8 minutes before he wins it. You mentioned Viscera on the top rope, showing his versatility like Christian Daly. And then you mentioned both acolytes not winning the title.
And they threw Funaki
They throw Funaki, one of the headbangers, and Taka on top of them, and then the ref just makes the call like, you won it. It's Taka, Derek, that makes me laugh as soon as Funaki wins it and he finds out it wasn't him. He scuds him out the face and throws him at the ring.
I think that was a fun element of it, was when the tag teams started fighting each other, going against it. You know, that's another wee fun sort of laughy element on it, when you see them try to pin each other through the back. When you see both guys try to fight each other and stuff like that. It was for what it was fun.
Yeah.
If anything, you could say it's fun to watch back again. Would I like to watch it again? Probably not, but it was fun to watch it again.
Yeah.
See, that title reign of Viscera lasted 7 minutes. Now I know what they mean when they say 7 minutes in heaven. We had Viscera's title reign. So, Gary, obviously you mentioned that it jumps from person to person. So, we've had Crash lose to Taz lose to Viscera lose to Funaki, then Taka beats Funaki, who gets beat by Rodney, who gets beat by Joey Abs, who gets beat by Thrasher, who loses to Pete Gas, and then as the match spills back to the ringside area, Taz regains the title. Taz is a weird one. Nathan and me and Scott talked about it. He came into such a hot pop New York crowd, beats down Kurt Angle. He's then fighting Big Boss Man for no reason, on No Way Out. He wins the match in a minute and a half by DQ, and Big Boss Man and Albert, who all of a sudden is teaming with Test, and Bill Buchanan's now teaming with Boss Man. This was Attitude Era at its finest, folks.
Yeah.
And now he's in this sort of, as if, well, you did ECW, you'll do the hardcore thing. He's just sort of, it's a shame to see what could have been.
Yeah, 100%.
There's bits in the match where Taz looked amazing. He got a good pop when he came out. Some of the suplexes he was doing were incredible. I'm not sure if he was a wee bit concussed in this match, because he kept trying to pin people when he was the champion.
Yeah, fighting champion.
He don't pin anybody.
He couldn't let Viscera look better than him, so he had to, fighting champion.
But yeah, Taz for me, I would put into the category as one that got away. I don't know if his size was an issue.
I think it might have.
He obviously has gone on to have a really great career and was a good commentator, and that has extended his career immensely. But what you were saying a minute ago, Ross, if you had said this is the same guy that debuted at the Royal Rumble and ended Kurt Angle's streak, who's now in this random match, you wouldn't believe it was the same. How could that happen? But then we're going to talk about the Big Show later.
Yep.
Derek.
It's similar, like mention about Taz. It's sort of very similar to the mention that we've got now. With, you know, the way that they've done it with Nakamura. You know, with Nakamura, the way that he's been as well. You know, it's sort of the same simulation where he comes in with a bang.
Yeah.
And then a few months later, a few years later, he's wrestling for nothing. You know, he's wrestling in hardcore title matches and he's wrestling for the opening shows and things like that. It's a shame when you see these guys doing that. Obviously, like you were mentioning, Ross, with the match ending, it obviously ends a wee bit controversial to say the least.
Yeah. So we get 30 seconds remaining. Crash wins the title back, but Taz locks in the Taz mission.
There was a great pop when he locked that in.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah, because I'll keep mentioning back. Obviously, we'll go back and forward, guys, if you haven't listened to certain shows, and we'll just give you a bit of context. After his match ends in 90 seconds at No Way Out, there is a massive bullshit chant, and this isn't like hardcore ECW country.
Yeah.
No Way Out was in Hartford, Connecticut. It's WWE territory, and yet they were outraged at how they were booking Taz, and obviously, as Derek mentioned, parallels to someone like Nakamura now. It's sometimes WWF looking at how good someone is, but not taking, you know, not wanting to take direction from someone else when they're going, no, this guy has weaknesses, here's how we cover his flaws, here's how we make him, you know, him. But yeah, you see Hardcore Holly sitting on the outside, holding a jar and waiting for his cue. So Hardcore Holly runs in, hits him with this glass jar, he falls to the floor, Crash. Hardcore Holly goes for the pin a bit too early, the buzzer was meant to sound. The ref does not count 3, he goes 1, 2, stops. The buzzer goes, and then Howard Finkel goes, here is your winner, Hardcore Holly. Poor Crash looks properly annoyed. Hardcore Holly looks confused and looks like, God, I'm going to get chewed out backstage. It's just such a clusterfuck, as you said, Derek.
Yep, I think the ref got a lot of. He got can't remember his name.
Tim White.
He got a lot of abuse backstage. I think he ended up getting his ass felt big time backstage.
Ref has to count to 3.
Yes.
Yeah, I think like sometimes, you know, maybe concussions or maybe, you know, things change where a wrestler's injured. Just count to 3, you know, don't worry about the finish. We saw this year at WrestleMania, the main event, the ref counted to 3 because it was the right thing to do. And although maybe we'll look back on that in a few years like, oh, wonder what the real finish was. You count to 3, it takes away from, it takes you out the moment, it reminds you that this isn't real. You want to be taken away, you want to think this is legitimate. Something I actually just remembered it here. They've cut this out in the network. It's his interview with Michael Cole after. I don't know if any of you remember it. Michael Cole goes, what do you think of the controversy? And Hardcore Holly, obviously annoyed, he's obviously been given into trouble backstage. He goes, what do you mean controversy? Of course I deserve this, you little shithead. And walks away, which looks like the second unplanned moment of the night with Hardcore Holly. Because Michael Cole is dumbfounded, looks straight at the camera, and then it cuts back to Jerry and JR, yeah. Can't even remember my people, no, there's too many people on this card. Who just goes, we'd like to apologise for Hardcore Holly's classless actions, King. And then there's just like dead air until like, the next person's music hits.
You'll always be Sparkplug to me.
Aye.
He's just...
Start your engines.
Sparkplug Holly.
What rumble was that?
Oh, it was 96.
96 one?
96 Rumble, I think it was. When you had such greats as Aldo Montoya and Sparkplug into it. And Dave Meltzer gave this 5 stars out of 5. Sorry, 0.5. Sorry, I couldn't read. I missed that point. Yeah.
I absolutely bit there, Gary. I was about to go, wait, what?
If Mr. had held the title for the full match,
yes, I think, yeah. Yeah.
He'd have been the Iron. He was the Iron Man.
Yes,
of this
the
match.
Iron Man of this match. What Robert Downey Jr. wishes he could be. So, backstage we see Al Snow talking to someone in a bathroom stall. Apparently it's weird when George Michael does it, but when Al Snow does it, it's TV. Yeah. It's revealed to be Chester McCheesington, a man dressed as a block of cheese, slapping his ass to the crowd chanting, "Let's go Head Cheese," which was the name of the team of Steve Blackman and Al Snow. Jesus Christ.
That
There's pushing the envelope a bit, and then there's just basically throwing all care to the wind and going, yeah, head cheese, you know, get it? Idiotic.
Oh, watching this back, you know, Steve Blackman, legit badass, looks amazing, no personality
No, absolutely none.
at all, and they put him with Al Snow to try and give him some personality to it. It's not working. I don't know what else to say about this match. Teddy Long was the referee. I don't know if anyone spotted that on it.
He loves a tag match.
It was Trish's first WrestleMania.
Yes.
As well.
There is 2 Hall of Famers involved in this match. One is on the outside of the ring, one is the referee in the ring. Just think of that.
Yeah.
I had my notes here. We see the women's evolution in full swing as we have a massive close-up of Trish's T in TNA.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about Test.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1.25 stars this match got.
Oh, there you go.
It's
Match of the
surprising.
night.
The best bit about this match was what happened after the match was finished, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So
the attack.
TNA win, and well, the best bit of that was actually when Al Snow picks Cheesy up and pushes him into the ring under the bottle. He sort of places him carefully on the ring apron and then sort of pushes him into the ring, and and then he gets up and then they beat him down.
Yeah, the audio gives it in this match. Like, they don't even want to talk about it. I think King thinks JR is going in commentary and pulls his headset out. And then you just get JR go, you just hear him back and call it, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
It's odd, you know, 3 matches into the show and you've got 2 nothing tag matches.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be the biggest show of the year, and it just feels weird.
This match was so memorable to me that I totally forgot it ever happened. And then I looked
It's
back
like
at
a
it,
repressed memory.
I was like, what the hell? I totally forgot this happened. I totally forgot about Al Snow and Blackman even being a team. As well, when you mention, you know, like Gary mentioning about Blackman, he had everything except from the personality, got personality of Wilson. And then I obviously mixed them together with Al Snow. It's just like we mentioned at the start, it's just putting these people together for the sake of putting them together.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing really in
Yeah.
it. The other thing again, like I said, I mentioned Big Buchanan's leg drop off the top rope. Big Test delivers an elbow from the top rope to pin to win the match, which was reasonably impressive.
Al Snow did quite a nice springboard moonsault outside the ring
Yeah.
as well. Or
Asai Minnesota.
Thank you.
I think I've pronounced that right. I'll probably get
better,
somebody
better,
scream.
better than my
The ass to face moonsault. But
You never go ass to face.
well, from that, I'm saying Jesus Christ at that. This is a line that was on commentary, right? The cheese chases Trish around the ring, to which Jerry Lawler calls him Chester than the Lester. I mean, for Jerry Lawler of all people, that's like Ronald McDonald calling you a fat bastard.
hot the kettle.
Yeah, hot kettle. Yeah, just another match. TNA pick up the win, and Head Cheese beat up the mascot after the match.
Yep.
We're moving on, lads.
Yes,
Yes,
please.
please.
So we cut backstage to Kat, who's completely naked, and Mae Young, who's fully clothed, thankfully. They they strategically place a t-shirt with a little pussy on it.
This was peak attitude era, wasn't
Yep.
it?
See, this is like tongue-in-cheek stuff, whereas before it was just like, head cheese, do you get it? Do you get it? A phone and 2 bottles of water. See, stuff like this is what gave poor Jerry Lawler a heart attack. That man was just a walking erection in the Attitude Era.
He was married to the cat for a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
That's the definition of punching.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jerry Lawler at
There
this
you go.
stage sort of reminds me of a single Ross McLeod.
Minus the erection. So, after this, we see an interview hyping the tag title match with Kwaku and Derek Kernahan, the Dudley Boys.
Yes,
Was this a nerve-wracking match?
it was. We were champs, couldn't we? As champs, really nerve-wracking. What
I mean, we were slagging off this show at the start, but this is the standout from the show.
Yes.
I think, just spoiler alert for people now, this match, the triple threat match for the 2 titles, and the Rock Triple H section of the main event hold this show together, and it's doing a fine job holding it together considering the horrendousness on the other side. So a precursor to the TLC era, the Dudley Boys, who are tag champs, going up against Edge and Christian, who at this point have never been tag champs.
Sorry, they were introduced as Christian and Edge.
Yes, Howard Finkel did that a lot. They come up Edge and Christian and Edge. Right, it was to make Christian feel better because they were using Edge's music.
Yeah.
They were using Edge's name first. And the Hardy Boys, who had only been tag team champions once at this point. You think of all the titles these guys have held since, like, they could have nearly 50 tag titles, I think, if you just count all the Dudleys, all the Hardys and all the Edge and Christian ones together and apart. And yet at this point in this triple threat ladder match, they had 2 tag title reigns between them.
It was a real sign of things to come. It was the start of a new era and the start of an amazing series. And
Yes.
some of the now, when looking back in that match, there's a bit in this match where I remember Christian climbs to the top of the ladder inside the ring, does a high cross body over the top rope, and the ladder's right against the ropes. The high cross body lands on the 2 guys outside the ring, and he gets a holy shit chant to
Yes.
it. I doubt that would even get a reaction today.
Yeah, it's a sign of the times because I've noted something that Derek said earlier. It's all 6 of these guys' first WrestleMania match. It's also the first ever 3-way ladder match with teams or singles competitors. First ever triangle ladder match, they were calling it. It's car crashed, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's saves this WrestleMania.
You've got that epic moment as well, which you see a lot, that WWE was a lot, is Edge spearing Matt Hardy
Yes.
when he's going up the ladder.
Yes.
As well, that epic moment that you see, WWE will use that a lot in a lot of things as well, and it just shows you how, I mean, it's like you said, Ross, it is a bit of, again, like a clusterfuck, but it works. This match works, and it works so well, and it's just, these guys making their debut and their WrestleMania debut, and they steal the show.
There's a proper iconic moment in the match where Jeff Hardy climbs the ladder
Yes.
outside the ring and does a swanton off it through Bubba
Yeah.
outside it.
That
And
hurt.
also, the balls to climb up on a ladder, if I climb up a ladder in the house to get into the loft, I'm a wee bit like, somebody's got to hold the side of this.
Aye.
Standing on a bit, top of a ladder in a big arena, that's a lot of pressure.
See, some other iconic moments for this match. There's Bubba Dudley is on the Spanish announce table with a normal table set up on the floor.
Oh yeah.
And an absolute rapid whiplash movement brings Hardy up for a powerbomb and slams him through it. Devon's in the ring trying to put Jeff through a different table. He jumps off the ladder, and as you said, the balls. Jeff moved, goes right through the table himself. The balls to know that you're going to jump 15 feet and go flat face through a table.
There was a bit earlier on in this match where Jeff Hardy's on the top rope and does attempts a 450 splash. Bubba moves and he lands on the ladder. And that was going to hurt.
Yeah.
And the speed that he had been coming down at.
It makes me laugh when people, like we've seen Braun Strowman throwing office chairs. See when people throw stuff into on-running people, I always find it hilarious. There's a bit where Jeff Hardy, from one end of the ring to the other, runs right along the guardrail,
Oh, yes.
only to have Bubba Dudley waiting on him and throw a ladder right in his face, just piss off!
There were some amazing spots in the match. There was a point in the match where Bubba and Jeff, I think it was, were on top of the ladder, and Bubba gets, Bubba and Jeff gets a hold of him and like almost thinking the neck breaker position, or kind of like a bulldog, and jumps off the top of the ladder with them. A spot that got a holy shit chant again in here, but today I doubt it would get much of a reaction because you see those types of moves quite common now.
Yeah.
And it's that just knowing what these guys go on to do, that sort of constant pushing of the envelope with them. It was an amazing match. The finish where they were building to it. You know when you get the bits, they got the ladders together, and they've got the table on the top of it, and they put down the bit for safety.
Yeah.
To let the make sure the table was sturdy on it, and you get Matt Hardy, and I think it was Christian to begin with
Christian's
on top of it.
them, yeah.
Both in their sort of knees, doing a bit. You can tell they're a bit tentative,
Yeah.
rightly so, but standing up on it. And then Edge comes up at the back and chucks Matt off the top of it through the tables outside. I thought that was quite a spot to finish, and of course the two of them. That's another iconic moment, that sort of WrestleMania moment you see often with them, both of them pulling down the tag titles.
Yeah. In terms of this match as well, see the timing of the match. Well, like we've mentioned, we haven't been very complimentary to the other 3 matches. This was perfect timing to have this match at this time.
Yes.
In my opinion as well, because like we mentioned, other matches were sort of put together, nothing real good. This match is a crowd pleaser. Crowd are up on their feet, they're going crazy. It was just perfect timing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 6 months on from Edge and Christian and the Hardys' first ladder match, which was over the managerial services of Terry.
The Terry Invitational Tournament.
Yes. Much like Trotter's Independent Traders,
Yes.
it spells tits. Yes. If you forget the stipulation, that's a great match. It's about 6 months before the first TLC and 2 years before possibly the defining match in the series.
Was it a
TLC
tables
2.
match at the Royal? It was a tables match at the Royal Rumble. Was
Yes.
it? With Dudleys and Hardys.
Dudleys and Hardys, yeah, that's another match that holds up, because that holds that pay-per-view together, because the other matches other than the Rumble's a bit lacking in star power.
Yeah, I think so.
You've got 2 guys that can win at the Rock and Big Show who come out at 24 and 26. It's not a great Rumble, but this match holds that show together. So we cut backstage to Mick Foley getting interviewed, and he says that these young men who fought in that ladder match left it all in the ring, and in his final appearance he has to leave it all in the ring. There is no mention again of the WWF title being on the line. There is no mention. Triple H had a promo earlier on. If he didn't have the title, you wouldn't know he was the champion. Linda McMahon's there. She's as wooden as the 2x4 they broke over the back of Viscera. Do you think Linda McMahon and Vince McMahon go to the same barber?
The same toupee.
Yeah, the same toupee. Do you think they fight it like 2 bald men fighting over a comb? They fight over the wig.
They may get a 2-for-1 discount. It's worth mentioning, sorry, just before we move on, the tag title match got 4 out of 5 stars.
Rightfully so, I'd say.
Yeah.
So without question, the match of the night.
So we go from car crash stunts to just car crash. The Cat versus Terry Runnels. The Cat has Mae Young in her corner, and Terry has Fabulous Moolah in her corner. Both of them look like they've raided Liberace's wardrobe. With Val Venus as the referee. Something for the Daz here, lads.
Yes.
Something for the Daz.
Yes, exactly.
Did you notice Val Venus's subtle t-shirt that just says "I am cocked" in all white letters?
Yes. There was nothing subtle about Val Venus, was
No,
there?
it wasn't.
We talk, obviously, you said the rules where there was pyro and you take a sign to the wrestling. There's a sign that says, "Terry, take it off. May, keep it on." And as Gary obviously has been referencing Dave Meltzer's star ratings, JR warned the crowd, this match won't be ranked on the star system, folks.
Yes, it was, and surprisingly, it only got a -1. I think you say he was being a wee bit generous. One thing I learned about this match is that Mae Young is a horrendous choice of a corner man.
Yes.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for her, the Cat would have won this match twice over.
Both women in this sorry, 3 out of the 4 women involved in this match, former women's champions. Terry is the only one not to win it. We're complimentary of WWE's women's division today.
Yes.
Minus Bailey, who has a curse on this household, Gary.
Oh yeah, she's broke children's hearts everywhere.
Terry Runnels' Twitter account, on her bio she says, WWE diva, pioneer and trailblazer.
Wow.
With matches like this, I don't think you can put that in your total bio.
No.
I think that's stretching things somewhat. This is clearly a different era. That pioneer trailblazer tag I would apply to. There's other women.
Yes,
like
Trish.
we mentioned Trish earlier on, that definitely deserve that. You know, Terry played her part, and she played her part well, but not any of those things. With this match, I really enjoyed Moolah and May. I thought they were such a laugh, and I was listening. Bruce Pritchard and Conrad Thompson did a podcast where they talked about the fabulous Mullah's career, and they told stories about, or Pritchard told stories about Mullah when she had, and May, famous things with them being powerbombed by the Dudleys, being splashed by 3-minute warning going through the table, and Mullah and May saying to the guys, you better hit me or I'm going to no-sell your shit. If you don't make this look good, I'm going to get up, and they're like, tough as anything. So they clearly loved their moment in the spotlight again. Probably one of the funniest bits of this match was Mae Young kissing Val Venus, a fate that would fall upon the great one, The Rock, in years to come.
Yes. No, The Rock did it voluntarily. That's what's worrying. I mean, lads, we've all voluntarily made a mistake or two here, but I mean, I don't think any of us have ever went that far. So yes, I have my notes here. Both women kiss the ref to get advantage, and then Mae Young decides she wants her Jubilees felt for the first time since Vietnam. So she puts, there's a moment she puts Val Venus's hand down her top. Literally, she just grabs his hand and puts it in there.
She does the Bronco Buster in Moolah, and they call it, I think King says in commentary, it's the oldest Bronco Buster in captivity.
In captivity.
Captivity, thank you. I butchered that line there.
Oh, yes, can you imagine that chant at ICW? Yeast, yeast, yeast,
Oh.
yeast.
Let's give credit to the cat. It can't be easy to, if you can call that wrestle, what she did. It can't be easy doing that with those types of high heels that she had on. Those were a good few inches on that. Something that you could do with Ross.
Yes, I'd settle for half an inch. The cat throws Terry out twice, as you mentioned, but May distracts the ref. Muller throws Terry back in and drags the cat out. Val Venus mercifully rings the bell, and then there's all the afters. Derek, will this be a match you show your children to get them into wrestling?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I think this goes down the same route as the Al Snow and Steve Blackman TNA match that you've just never watch it again.
Yeah, it's one of those ones, unless you have to, you're not going to.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the only good, again, I'm trying to think of positives. The only good thing that came from this as well is when you look at the way it was the diva thing, as you would call it then, to how the women's wrestling is now. Total 90. How far it's came.
Yes.
It's just amazing to see how far it's came as well.
So there's a lot of backstage segments in this show. There's a lot of backstage interviews. We cut backstage to Eddie Guerrero. He's checking out his own reflection, and Dean Malenko's like heavyweight title. He tells Perry and Dean that China can't stand that Latino heat, and Dean says, "Focus, we need to break the legs of those dancing fools, too cool." Perry Saturn says, "You're not the only good-looking man in this group." I mean, in fairness, Perry, I'm sure Perry's very athletic, and as we see in this match, and you know he's very well built. But I mean, it's like walking up to The Rock and saying, "My missus says I'm quite handsome." You know, I'm sure she does, mate. But it's Eddie Guerrero, and then it's the rest of these. and a stable that included Dean Malenko and Chris Benoit. Perry Saturn wanted to talk about looks.
Aye.
You're by de facto the second best looking in the group.
Yes. You're right about the backstage things. They're quite different backstage skits they did this time, and also the absence of like the video package, which are really like a staple of today's show, which tell you about the story of the match. Probably because most of these matches didn't have stories going into them, so there was no point doing that. But not the sort of like the backstage skits you get at WrestleMania now, where they're a wee bit funny. You get the, you know, Moolah and May pulling Bobby the Brain and Mean Gene Okerlund out of the cupboard where they've just had a little snog. There's none of those like funny things that involve any of the legends.
Yeah.
It's, as you say, it's interviews, and most of the interviews are a wee bit wooden.
Very much
along the way, I don't think. And if they were there to sell the matches that were to come. Well, there's no point selling them because you've already bought pay-per-view, and they don't really do a great job at doing that, do they? This was good to see. This sort of, remind yourself of the sort of seeds being planted of Latino heat.
Yes, Mamacita. It would be, whoever, we'll tell you anyway, the pay-per-view's 19 years old, for Christ's sake. When Chris Jericho wins the European title, the next night...
What?
The next night...
Spoiler alert, Ross!
China turns on Chris Jericho, who she'd been managing on and off, and joins Eddie Guerrero, and I think that's her most iconic role in her career. Her DX role, I think, gets overstated a lot. It was during this Eddie Guerrero run, Derek, that she got the chance to show what she could do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of people will obviously remember her DX run and what she'd done there as well. But it's a good segment. And also, when you see, like, in this match, China, when she comes in the heat, like, it's like one of those hot tags, and she goes for it, and she delivers powers. She delivers a power slam, a power bomb, a press slam, and then a sleeper slam, all for the win.
Two of those three she only just managed.
She did, yeah. I mean, it's still impressive for her to try them, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, none of it in her strength and athletic ability.
Yeah.
Well, it was funny when she grabbed Eddie by the balls and then led into the power slam. That was a good spot.
Yeah. The Radicals, I loved the Radicals. I loved them when they first came to.
I was so excited.
So excited to see when you see all these guys coming in and they're like stable WCW guys, and then you're getting you know, like Eddie Guerrero coming in.
Benoit was the WCW champion.
So he was. Benoit, who was obviously the stuff that's happened, but he was an amazing wrestler as well. Perry Saturn, absolute monster of a man as well. Handsome devil as well.
Leader of the Handsome Man's Club.
And then Dean Malenko as well on top of that as well. I mean, that was just, it was amazing. And then having them all together as a stable was so exciting.
I was so excited when they came in, but then if I could rebook something, the heel turn of the Radicals when they first came on board, I know it came out because of Guerrero breaking his arm. I just think that was the wrong decision.
See, something that stands out about Eddie Guerrero in this match is the fact that you've got China, the most over woman for a good while. You know, that was a long time before you got a female proper superstar. You had Too Cool, who I think at this point in WWE you had The Rock, you had maybe like Kane and Chris Jericho, and then you had Too Cool and Rikishi. They were there. They were there with like the absence of Stone Cold and The Undertaker at this point. You've got obviously Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn, a great technical wrestler and a monster of a man, and a handsome man is that. And yet Eddie Guerrero just stands out. He oozes charisma. That scene of him sitting on the turnbuckle and winking at China, it's still used today. Like, people use it when they, like, it's an iconic moment, and he just sits there, and yet it just oozes at him. It's something that's missing today. It's something that's missed by him.
There was lots of little bits in the match he did where he sort of like was shaking his body at China, and then he got her and he had her head between his legs. He was like as if he was going to go for like a powerbomb type move, and he starts like sort of shaking his ass and things. Just those little things he can do. And when we talk about Too Cool again later, some of their crowd work, you know, Eddie was just his psychology. You could see it. You know, just that little things. Like during the hardcore match, there was some crazy shit going on that you'd never seen. Yeah. Like he kind of knew where the cameras were, knew where the audience were, give enough time between a move before you do the next move to let people react to it. He was a genius in the ring.
Something as well, people forget how, because the worm, you know, it's not a spectacular, you know, 450 splash, but Scotty 2 Hotty was an amazing wrestler. He was so quick, so fast. He's just Scotty 2 Hotty's got his worm out was what we used to say when, you know, Scott had disrobed in front of family members again.
Is he still doing that?
But Scott was cute at 4, not at 22. Actually, I slag Perry Saturn for saying he was a good looking man. Actually, my notes are about Perry Saturn breaks out in an amazing elbow drop. China gets the finish with a power bomb and then drops Eddie with a sleeper.
Yeah.
Radicals, obviously you mentioned being rebooked. If you could, they'd lost the month prior to the full of Too Cool, and now subbing for Rikishi was China. They lost again. Like, thankfully, Eddie wins the European title the next night, and talk about Benoit in a wee minute. Dean Malenko wins the light heavyweight championship. Terry then joined Perry Saturn to give him a bit of charisma. It seemed when they went off on their own, even though they were still called the Radicals, they were fine, but it's just whenever they got together, it was like, we're just didn't.
It was a wee bit like WWE acquired these 4 amazing talent in an unplanned way. They didn't pursue them, they didn't know they were going to be coming, they got them, and it's like, oh, we need to do something with them now, and didn't really have stories planned out for them. As opposed to Chris Jericho signs, they build up the debut, and they give them, you know, something to do on the back of it. I think that was the mistake then, and it's like, what do we've got these guys now, so what are we going to do with them?
So
How did the Radicals debut? Did they just not randomly turn up?
They were in the crowd of Raw.
That was it, yeah.
and then the McMahon, Helmsley and DX used them to beat up The Rock, Too Cool, Rikishi and Mick Foley. Yeah.
Whereas the Jericho situation, you know, you had the big, you know, the Y2J stuff happening all the time.
Because this was a loaded, you know, there was a lot of wrestlers in this roster at the time, so to suddenly add 4 people in with no notice. Match got 2.5 stars out of 5.
So, right, buckle in folks, we've got 4 video packages here, Jesus Christ. We see the winner of the WrestleMania All Day Long contest. She's smoking a fag as she opens the door and wearing a crop top and has about 30 family members in the house. I can hear the banjos.
Ding, 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 ding.
And
You've
then you
got
see
a
her,
pretty mouth, Ross.
then you see her boyfriend, who does not help matters, wearing his sleeveless Austin 316 shirt.
Yeah.
That's classy move.
We then get a horrendously bad Big Show promo, which makes me glad he got eliminated first. We then see footage of Sunday Night Heat. Kurt Angle, before this match, did not... It was going to be a 1-fall match for both titles. He then finds out that because of his manager at the time, Bob Backlund, he's defending both titles in 2 falls. He then hits Backlund with his own cross-faced chicken wing, and then he just discards him. We then see him sorting his security for his victory party, because he's certain he's going to win. Kurt Angle here, go back and look at him, he looks like David Hockman here. He's got hair and everything, seriously, it's alarming.
Was Kurt Angle doing spin classes then? Body pump, sorry.
Oh my god.
This was good, actually, watching this one back, to see these 3 amazing workers
All again making their many debuts.
Yeah.
Jericho, Benoit and Angle.
early in their career. We've obviously seen Kurt Angle in the ring more recently, where he was a shell of himself, but you know, back then he was a machine.
Yeah, this is kind of his prime, isn't it? Compared to seeing him, the way that you've seen him the last few times, you've even seen him at ICW.
I thought this was quite a good wee, we were slagging off some of the bits earlier on, and obviously there's no traditional singles matches in this one, but the 2 out of 3 falls, the 2 different titles, I thought that was quite a cool...
It's a cool stipulation that we've not seen since.
Yeah, has it been? I don't think it's ever been.
No, because they did the triple threat with the 3 world champions at Cyber Sunday with Big Show, Cena and Booker T, and the fans voted on the 1 title they wanted on the line. Then they had one on Raw a couple of months ago. It was Miz was feuding with Cesaro, R-Truth was feuding with Wade Barrett, and they did a vote because Wade Barrett and Cesaro had the titles. What title do you want defended? So it's only been 1 fall and 1 title really since. Even the winner take all match at WrestleMania this year, 1 fall.
Yeah.
Jericho, we mentioned before, the reactions he get, he comes out to a massive pop. Benoit, sorry.
I love this countdown music.
Yes.
It's so good.
Benoit comes out to absolute crickets. Just shows how well he's been booked up until this point. But Kurt Angle comes out before he gets a chance to make his way to the ring. Benoit attacks him to kick us off. As you said, it's just good to see these. It's a match that you watch and go, I like this, I'd watch this match again. Whereas so much in this pay-per-view is, even if I had to.
Yeah. If this hadn't been the 2 out of 3 falls, it'd probably been a good candidate to put on first.
Yeah.
Because I would have said the pace for what is to come. But some good things. I love Kurt Angle. This is the storytelling. You know, the champion, the double champ going into it. He loses both his titles, but he's not involved in a single one of the falls.
never
That's
gets
like
pinned, does he?
genius.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Like you were saying, Ross, with this, I would go back and watch this match again, and I would go back and watch the tag match again, the tag title match again. Other than that, I wouldn't watch them. But the reason why, if you look at the people who are in these matches as well, that's one of the reasons why you would go back and watch them again.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, Angle, Benoit, Jericho, brilliant. You know, if you could see them again, you would watch it any time, and also the tag match as well.
So obviously, as you said, both titles change hands. Angle isn't pinned. Fall 1 for the Intercontinental title, Benoit hits Jericho with a diving headbutt, and then fall 2, Jericho hits Benoit with a lime salt for the European title. Angle is in the ring, livid. Both wrestlers walk away with his titles, and he has not been pinned. He's just raging.
The finish of the second fall, I thought was really the alliance salt that Jericho did. He like more or less jumped backwards across the entire ring.
entire
It was
ring,
some
yeah.
distance he got on it.
Yeah, this is. He doesn't do the line salt often, and I think Jericho is one of these performers. He adapts and he knows his limits. At this point in his career, he could fly across that ring, whereas now he's a bit more heavy, he's a bit more muscle based, whereas he was still in his cruiserweight style of wrestling at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it was
think-
19 years ago. To
Yeah,
be fair.
no, when 50, the guy is 50 and could still do it. I am 26 and would break my back attempting a follow roll, you know what I mean? So, like, I'm not slagging him in any way, I'm just saying it's smart to adapt. Another interview for the main event. Once again, there is no mention of the WWE title. Vince McMahon's interviewed and says what he likes to think he's always a factor and doesn't believe his family's dysfunctional. Jesus Christ. And he says, in the main event, it's about making it right. And it's about the WWE Championship. We cut to Triple H, who is now raging and says, tonight's not about making it right. Tonight's about, and you think, title. Tonight's about proving I'm that damn good. Not one mention of the title.
Well, he could have said, prove I'm that damn good by retaining the championship.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all he needed.
And it's not even that. See, in this segment, the segment earlier on he was holding the title. The segment now, he has no title. It's just, you could forgive it because, and we'll get into the reasons why each McMahon was in a corner before, but it's just, they're not even trying at this
Yes,
point. It's
yes.
McMahon-omania.
It's crazy how devalued the title
Yes.
is leading up to this. It's just about Vince and his ego and the McMahons and their ego going into this.
Which
Totally.
makes no sense from a storytelling point of view, because Triple H had gone through absolute wars to defend the title
Yes.
against Cactus Jack in the lead up to WrestleMania. So he had went through hell, literally hell in a cell to
Yes,
get
Hell
there.
in a Cell, yes. So the next match, Kane and Rikishi with Paul Bear versus the DX combination of Road Dogg and X-Pac with that Jezebel, as JR called
Oh,
her,
that was
Tori.
brilliant.
This is the
Where was
finale.
Billy Gunn at this time?
Billy Gunn, the month before,
Locked in Ross's room.
he's not locked in the room, he has a key when it suits me. No, so Billy Gunn was injured the month before and had niggling neck problems, so he was kicked out of DX. I don't think anybody wanted to be in DX at this point, to be honest. And Road Dogg was teamed with X-Pac. So this is the finale of the Kane, Tori, X-Pac saga. Would you like to hear this, for context, how over the top this storyline is?
I think the answer is no, but I think we have
Oh
to.
no, you have to, right? So, oh no. I have a list. It's 2 pissing pages. Kane and X-Pac are 2-time tag champs. X-Pac then leaves Kane to rejoin DX. Kane beats X-Pac via DQ at Survivor Series when the rest of DX interfere. Tori tries to save Kane, but is roundhoused by X-Pac. Kane then defeats X-Pac in a cage match at Armageddon. Tori challenges Stephanie McMahon the next night on Raw to a match, but Stephanie subs herself for X-Pac, who beats her down. Kane can't save her as he's been taken out by the Main Street Posse. Main Street Posse getting another mention. Kane the next week, as an apology, is given a WWF title match against the Big Show, with the added stipulation that if X-Pac wins, he gets to spend Christmas with Tori. This was the go home Raw of Christmas. The New Age Outlaws distract Kane, costing him the match, which means X-Pac and Tori must spend Christmas together. Tori returns to tell Kane that despite the bravado, X-Pac was a gentleman and Kane has nothing to worry about. However, Tori becomes paranoid that people are talking about her and starts unleashing Kane on people. X-Pac then eliminates Kane from the 2000 Royal Rumble. X-Pac reveals that Tori seduced him at Christmas. Tori confirms this and leaves Kane for X-Pac. Kane is then institutionalised, stricken with grief. He then returns to save The Rock, Rikishi, Mick Foley and Too Cool from a beatdown from all 4 members of the Radicals and all the McMahon-Helmsley faction. He then fights X-Pac in a no-holds-barred match at No Way Out, but not before X-Pac shoots him with a fireball. We then have a tag team match at WrestleMania. Good God.
One of the rumours for this as well was X-Pac was supposed to fight Jericho in a 1-on-1 match, but he didn't want to because he wanted to finish
the Kane
the
storyline.
saga.
Yes.
The absolute saga of him and Kane.
This sounds like a Star Wars saga here.
This was from Survivor Series to WrestleMania.
Yeah, but the finish, I mean, was it the cage match that happened at No Way Out?
Armageddon.
And what was the match at No Way Out?
No holds barred.
No holds barred. That seemed like a way to finish
Yeah.
the feud.
Yeah.
Not,
Or even-
not a random tag team match.
Even like the point of it was to get revenge on Tori. She was like the main. She was like she made Kane more human, and then she turned on him. So Paul Bear had to bring him back to become the monster. Why didn't you do it? Because intergender wrestling was allowed at this point.
Yeah, we just talked China.
Tori and X-Pac against Kane, and then I've let X-Pac run away, and Tori, gets her comeuppance, gets the tombstone, because he tombstones her on a random episode of SmackDown, and that's how the X-Pac match comes about.
She gets stink-faced in this match, which which Jerry Lawler refers to her having sort of ass breath or something like
breath,
that.
yeah.
I can't remember exactly how he described it.
There is a bit at the start where Tori slaps Paul Bear.
Oh, that was amazing.
I
Just,
get-
just before that, when Paul Bearer said, "You could go to hell." Dish.
So Tori slaps him, and Paul Bear gives her a look. It's meant to be scary, but it just makes him look like a sassy ghetto woman.
It was like one of the Carry On movies where he chased her around the ring.
There's a bit where Jerry Lawler says when Rikishi sits down, Chael's beg for mercy. Jerry Lawler's clearly never sat on one of Stephen Wilson's BM Shanners of a chair.
It's a sore point for you, Ross.
It is a sore point. When that chair broke, it didn't break, it just kind of floated to the ground. It's still a usable chair, but it's now like one of those wee Japanese ones where you put your feet under.
This is why you have to bring your own chairs when we
Exactly.
go places.
It's another quick tag match. As you mentioned, he was meant to fight Jericho. I think X-Pac since said he regrets it because it would have been something new. He ends up having 2 really good matches at Unforgiven and No Mercy 2000 against Jericho. But the Kane thing here, the main storyline is Pete Rose.
Oh yes.
He thinks a dancing chicken is Pete Rose, but the chicken was a distraction. Pete Rose runs into the ring, has the bat taken off him by Rikishi, and is then chokeslammed and stink-faced again.
I loved it when they were dancing and Kane sort of stands in the corner with Paul Bearer beside him, watching the chicken the whole time.
Yes.
And then when they finished dancing and the chicken still sort of stood in front of them, Paul Bearer's like holding onto the rope, but his feet don't move, but his body sort of sways to the side, so he can look at the chicken more closely. That was just so funny.
I like see Kane's facial movement. See when you see like a dog just kind of turn its head when it looks like inquisitive. That's sort of what Kane had with this mask.
It was like the Dilophosaurus in Jurassic Park, just before Big Nedry gets eaten.
That was Michael Myers sort of head tilt.
Well, I enjoyed the Pete Rose beatdown here and the stinky face. A 1-star match.
I don't blame him.
I think that is generous. Kane wins with the tombstone, doesn't he, on X-Pac?
Yeah, it's just I think, I know holds barred or a handicap match would have been good to end it on, but oh well.
There were a couple. When we come on, we're going to come and talk about the main event in a minute. There were a couple of matches that happened at No Way Out that I would have argued should have happened at WrestleMania. So the no holds barred match, and also I would have argued Mick Foley Triple H Hell in a Cell would have been better on WrestleMania than.
Something I'd said to Scotty if we were going to rebook, if Cactus Jack was king of the death matches, why didn't you have a death match and then when Rock loses his #1 contendership to the Big Show, have Linda, which she comes back the Raw after No Way Out anyway, have Linda say Rock is not getting his chance at WrestleMania, but he did earn it, so he's getting it tonight. You have The Rock beat Triple H with the help of Mick Foley. Rock and Big Show go fight at WrestleMania, and then you can have, say, Triple H with Stephanie in his corner against Mick with Linda in his corner. Hell in a Cell, winner gets the company, you know what I mean? Because Foley became the commissioner after this, so you can have Linda go, oh by the way, that's your reward, you've retired, commissioner, cushy job, Stephanie, piss off.
I remember watching this show live and lying in bed watching it because it was on like started at midnight. This is the good old days where you got it as part of your Sky subscription as well. You didn't have to pay extra for it. But I dozed off and I woke up just at the point where JR says, we're down to 2. The Big Show's been eliminated and their dear friend Mick Foley's out. And I said, oh for fuck.
It's Jerry Lawler when he says, our dear friend Mick Foley, he goes, speak for yourself, I hope he stays gone. But
Brilliant.
before the match, we get our final promo, and thank fuck for this promo, because I'm not just saying it because I am the biggest rock mark in the world.
It's brand new information.
This is an amazing promo, and in the promo himself he says, this match is not about Mick Foley's retirement, it is not about Vince McMahon's return, it is not about the McMahon-Helmsley faction, it's certainly not about the Big Show, it's about the WWF Championship, and you're like, yes, thank Christ. Somebody's mentioned it. It's like, obviously, in Scotland we very rarely get a European final, so when Celtic and Rangers both got to European finals, you'd have been forgiven for thinking we were playing ourselves, because there was no mention of Porto and there was no mention of in it, because it was like, this is sort of what this was like. Rock mentions that 12 months ago he lost his title at WrestleMania. He wants his title back. He's not held the title in the 12-month span, which I think is insane for someone, because Austin's injured, WCW's on its arse. There is no one more over at this point than The Rock in wrestling in a whole. And he stopped Kevin Kelly to listen to his chants. He puts an amazing promo together and makes sure that we know it's about the title. It's about the title. And you see with the entrances, Mick Foley gets a pop, but not a big pop.
And Mick Foley looked absolutely terrible.
He was 36 at this point.
God, I'm older than Mick Foley is at that age.
Well, we'll talk about Mick Foley in a minute. Big Show gets no reaction, Triple H gets boos, The Rock, it's electrifying when he comes out, and the added swagger of Vince McMahon in his corner, just that swagger down. So, for anyone that wasn't watching at this time, Stephanie betrays her dad at Armageddon 99 and marries Triple H. It reveals that the marriage was consensual, you know, it's all been a ruse. So Vince McMahon's written off TV, Stephanie and Triple H are running roughshod over WWE. Rock wins the Rumble, but loses to Big Show. So then Shane McMahon starts managing the Big Show because he wants to take the company off his sister. Linda McMahon does what's right and brings Mick Foley back. And then Vince McMahon, to get to Triple H, because he doesn't want Triple H and his family, starts managing The Rock and says he's managing The Rock in the interest of fairness, so that the Royal Rumble winner gets his due. So they've all got a reason for being there, and you can forgive that if, you know, the storytelling is the McMahon drama and the WWF title, but it's the McMahon drama. The WWF title is an afterthought. Like the tagline is a McMahon in every corner.
Yeah.
again, that was pushed down your throat, and it was a long ass match as well. They got plenty of time to work with, which was odd when you then think about the first elimination happening. Which probably worth mentioning, this at this point is the first multi-man main event
yes,
at
of WrestleMania.
and the stories are that they did that on purpose. They wanted to really shake this up and have no traditional matches. I think they went too far with it personally.
Yeah, people have a go at Vince Russo at times. This was all Vince McMahon. Vince Russo was gone, I believe, from he'd either just entered or just left. I can't remember the exact timeline. WCW at this point. WCW was on its arse, and WCW's big pay-per-view was Starrcade, which was December anyway. So you weren't going up against anything. There was no need to shake things up and make it different. You were wrestling.
Yeah, I hated the McMahon Helmsley era as well. I've just found it tedious and boring.
Something, Derek. It was something new though at the time, but whereas now in 2019, when you see the authority of the McMahons on Raw, it's just grown a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's 100%. Like here, like you said, it was, even though it was like Vince's ego run wild, it was something a bit different. Whereas the authority that they had recently, over the last few years in WWE was just, it's like trying to promote this. It's trying to get Vince's like, do you know what worked well? Oh, yeah, it's been there. Let's get it back again. Like, no, it didn't work well.
I think WWE's has made the company a heel too often. As you think the McMahon Helmsley era, Vince, for the time that was Austin Bischoff, from the 5 years he was GM at Raw, the authority. Raw's very rarely had a face GM. They had those like 2 weeks when Bret Hart was there.
And then decided, fuck this.
Yeah.
Give me my paycheck, I'm going home.
Yeah, there wasn't.
Obviously you mentioned the match goes a while. The match is 36 minutes and 24 seconds. And in 4 minutes 50 seconds, the Big Show is eliminated.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Chair shot to the back as he hits the ropes from Mick Foley, isn't he? And then walks into a
Walks into a rock bottom.
Probably worth mentioning how ill-fitting Shane McMahon's suit is as well.
I know,
It looks
it's so
like he's
weird.
wearing a suit 3 sizes too big for him.
Looks like he's wearing big shoes.
I think he must have grabbed the wrong jacket.
Oh, he was, we just touched on Big Show's promo. He was actually quite good in the promo, even though he didn't mention the title. But he just says, you know, we're sticking it to my sister, we're sticking it to my dad. And then Big Show just ruined it by talking. Although he does have a lovely shirt that says Big Nasty Bastard.
Yeah, this was the period where Big Show was going through sort of different experiments with his looks. He went from wearing the sort of Andre the Giant one strap singlet to wearing the pants to something else, to then wearing hot pants to wearing hot pants with a t-shirt.
He was finding himself, it was a young
Yeah.
man.
Actually was in pretty, you know, then look at what was going on with the Big Show. He was in pretty good shape back then as well, but just horrendously booked
Yeah.
and horrendously overexposed.
He had,
Far too much.
he had been in the company a year at this point, and from that point he had been Vince's henchman, to being Undertaker's henchman, to being an against the odds face, which I don't know how it's against the odds when you're 7 foot tall,
Yeah.
to a grieving son avenging his father.
Jumping. Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's Big Boss Man
Big
stealing
Boss
a
Man,
coffin. To an angry heel again because he lost his title. To a whinging heel because The Rock won the Rumble even though his feet hit the floor first. He then starts his gimmick the month after this, where he starts, he's Hulk Shogun. He's dressed as Hulk Hogan.
Oh, yeah.
He's dressed as Braveheart, he's dressed as Bret Hart, he's dressed as everything. It's just, Dave Meltzer talks about a story that Vince McMahon gave him where he said, the Giants pull the book from WCW. He should be an attraction. He shouldn't be wrestling every week. He wrestled Triple H and The Rock 3 weeks before WrestleMania, and I believe he wrestled the night after WrestleMania as well. It's just horrendous. Triple H tries to sell an alliance to either Mick Foley or The Rock, but they both choose to gang up on him. The Rock tries to hit Triple H with a bell but ends up hitting Mick. But Mick gets his own back, which leads to the bizarre scene. Now imagine telling someone in 2000 that in 2019 a member of President Donald Trump's cabinet would be cheating as a best-selling children's author stuck a sock into the cock from the Fast and the Furious movie's mouth. This is such a bizarre scene when you think about it in 2019. Then it's just so odd, isn't it? The mass boos when Triple H and Mick Foley end up teaming up together on The Rock, because there was one clear winner in this match. I think everyone bar Vince sees it, and the boos in the arena, it's not pretty. Mick Foley, you talked about the horrendous shape he was in. He goes for a top rope, elbow drop through the table. His knees are that knackered he does not reach the table. He misses The Rock. But God bless Triple H, the consummate professional, who improvises and hits an elbow drop while standing on the table, and then one from the guardrail, so the table, as slowly as Stephen's B&M chairs, falls to the ground as one guy in the crowd sarcastically chants, "Holy shit, holy shit." Oh, I mean, I'm glad Mick Foley got a WrestleMania main event, but my God, he should not have been in this one, Derek.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I think it's really fair what you're saying about Foley deserving a WrestleMania main event, but definitely not in this one.
And it was something that Mick would use in years gone by, because this wasn't his last WrestleMania match.
Oh no, we get to that.
Oh yes, when he comes in the future, he uses the fact he's not had a WrestleMania moment. Being in the main event of WrestleMania should be it.
Yes.
It is not for all these reasons. He had been through absolute hell and he did not look after himself. I think it's fair to say.
There's a sign in the crowd. We mentioned signs. We'll mention a lot of signs on these retro reviews because it's a golden age for signs. There's a guy with a sign that says beer $7, tickets $400. Seeing Mick Foley's last match, priceless. This man must have felt robbed watching Mick Foley as TNA World Champion. Mick Foley is champion in 2009 in a company that would not exist for another 2 years at this point. Yet this was his last match.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Triple H eliminates Foley after pedigreeing him on a chair. This would have felt a lot more powerful if it wasn't for the fact he wrestles for another 12 years. His retirement match is Royal Rumble 2012, and by this point, he can't stand.
Yeah.
He's holding onto the ropes.
Yeah,
It's brutal.
I loved Mick Foley. I mean, I remember being terrified when he debuted as Mankind in 1986, was it?
They were scary.
And I bought his books, loved his books. I remember him winning the world title when he put asses in the seats. That was an amazing moment. He's had some amazing matches, an amazing career. I don't know if he continued to try and get that perfect ending to it.
It's sad when you sometimes see certain footballers or certain sports stars that are, you know, they play for the likes of Man United, or they play for the likes of New York Giants or LA Lakers, and then they don't know when to call it a day, so then you get to like the bottom of their career and it's like, you know, 300 appearances for Man U, and then it's like 10 for Stoke, 4 for Hull City, 1 for Stevenage Town, you know what I mean? Like, no offence if you support those teams, but you know, this is what he was like here, you know what I mean? He just couldn't call it a day.
He was, and some of the work he'd done, some of the matches he had with Triple H were brutal. The street fight, the Hell in the Cell match, and the bumps he took were unbelievable. So I can see WWE wanting to give him the chance to be in the main event. I feel like, you know, he earned it, I think. Was this the main event that Austin? That wasn't where. This isn't the one that Austin made the pitch for Mick to be in the 1-on-1. That was a different match. Was it?
No, this was SummerSlam 99.
SummerSlam, thank you.
He refused to. One story says Austin refused to lose to Triple H because he didn't like that Shawn Michaels tried to get Triple H booked into the main event, which was Rock Austin the main before. Other stories say that Jesse Ventura, as a member of Congress, refused to lift the hand of a heel and Triple H was meant to win. So Mick Foley won, but then the next night Triple H took it off.
As when we were doing our fantasy booking earlier on, if you could lift the Hell in a Cell match up between Triple H and Mick Foley, put it
A month later.
a month later, and have the title dealt the way you described, I would have been much happier with that. And
Even-
Mick Foley to go into the have his retirement match at WrestleMania.
For the star power as well, you could add Austin as the guest referee, because a
Yeah.
month later, Austin is the guest enforcer of the Rock Triple H singles match, which should have took place here. So the Rock and Triple H last two. This bit of the match is sensational. There's hilarious scenes as Michael Douglas yells at the Rock, "Beat his ass, beat his ass." The guy from the Green Mile giving you a pep talk.
Yeah, he was very loud throughout the show. He was having a great time. I don't know if he was like me at an ICW show,
Yes,
just a bit too much.
Tad inebriated. Derek is a challenge trying to get Gary up the road.
It definitely is. Definitely is. Without him trying to Ric Flair chop someone or Stephen had that. Yeah, Stephen said the worst one so far.
He deserved it. He did deserve it. He deserved. It's the latter part of this match that helps with the 3-star rating that Meltzer gave it.
Yeah.
It was good, but I was disappointed with the finish.
Yeah,
Where
so
we have the McMahon tap chair shot.
So they fight into the crowd, they fight at ringside, there's pile drivers in the steps, monitor shots, chair shots, Triple H getting laid out by Vince, you know, like that rivalry, Shane sneaking back, the two of them brawling, Vince comes back because he gets taken away by the Stooges to get medical treatment.
Stooges. Oh, I love them.
Vince then comes back and takes out Shane, you think he's going to make it right, he hits the Rock in the head with a chair. It's one of those ones, you see it coming a mile away.
Too often, we've seen it too often at this point, and we'd see it almost a similar finish a year later. With those McMahon endorsed chair shots.
Two iconic matches and two very crap finishes with chairs.
The first, as you said, Ross, McMahon hits Rock with the chair. That was the first one. Was a pathetic shot. Rock goes down, Triple H covers, Rock kicks out, and then McMahon hits him with a much
harder
stiffer chair shot, which puts him down for the
Yes.
3 count. For them all, fans hate it. They're throwing people are throwing shit in the ring.
There's,
No, I was just going to say it's the first time in history at that point where a champion had defended, I believe.
no, it was
A heel champion defended. Sorry, thank you.
defends in the scenes. It was
Well-
Hulk Hogan defended about 9
Yes,
WrestleManias in a row.
yes. Sorry, that's what I meant. The first
Aye,
heel that's
first
come out and
Yeah.
talk about WrestleMania, heel champion defence, and fans did not like that.
The show's on the air for about another 10 minutes after the bell. Triple H, after the pin, is seen on TV once, where he gets up the rope to stop the Rock, People's elbowing Stephanie, in which he is just swiftly slapped off the apron. You mentioned fans are outraged. There's a bit where, so Rock comes back, you know, the United McMahon family minus Linda, you know, the nanny of the group as we mentioned earlier. The Rock takes out all 3 members of the McMahons, and when he goes to take out Stephanie, there is a massive puddle of beer and trash and soda cups and people just throwing stuff that they have to move over just so they don't end up landing in it. It's horrendous. It's such a... We'll talk about it when we do the Backlash review. A month later, all the chaos of the McMahon drama, but it's for the title. The title's mentioned, and it's a great match. It's so frustrating that the ingredients of a great WrestleMania main event were there, and it was just a clusterfuck.
Yep.
It was almost like I mentioned Jurassic Park earlier on. It was almost like as Richard Hammond said in that, John Hammond, sorry, Richard Attenborough's character. The dinosaurs just need our absence to survive. The 4 wrestlers needed the absence of the McMahons. They needed the absence just to step to the side and let the main event happen.
Yeah.
Jim Cornette was like Jeff Goldblum. Like, look, you try to play God, and look what happened.
Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should
Yes.
do it.
And all the fans are sitting there going, "You crazy son of a bitch."
You did it.
Crazy son of a bitch.
The fans loved the Rock's beatdown at the end, to say, especially Stephanie getting hers on it, but it was a lackluster finish.
It's a lackluster WrestleMania. So it doesn't hold up. What would you say if you had to have two positives and your two biggest negatives? What would they be, Derek?
Positives would be the tag match and probably the IC and European match on it. The negatives would probably be the way that the main event finished, and can you say the rest of the show, can I?
If you want to.
You just did.
I would say that the way the match finished, and probably the inclusion of the McMahons. Too much.
Gary?
Positives, the if you can say it, if I can put it this way, the birth of the Dudleys, Edge and Christian and the Hardys, that match and what that led on to do. I think if anybody was to watch this one back, the hardcore battle royal was fun.
Yeah.
It's not going to win any awards, but it was fun. Negatives, there are too many matches on this show that mean nothing, and this is WrestleMania. It's supposed to be the biggest show. They're supposed to be building for a year to it. There's too many matches that wouldn't look at a place on Sunday Night Heat on it. Other one to say is, we've put quite a lot of it apart already. I hated head cheese, and that way Viscera not walking out with a hardcore championship. I think we'll have to go on there.
I mean, I think this is why we waited so long for a black champ like Kofi Kingston, because universal suffrage, Viscera was not allowed to flourish. I'd say positives, just to use ones that haven't already been used. The introduction of new talent, 9 superstars who would go into define the Attitude Era, the Hardys, the Dudleys, Edge and Christian, Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho, all had their debuts here and all showed why they would be a staple of the things to come. And I would say, just to get him over again, because he should have won, The Rock's promo, it plugged the match, it plugged the opponents, it plugged the championship, it plugged the reason why we were all here, and it plugged the journey The Rock took. 5 things that plugged in 2 minutes, and what Vince, Triple H and Stephanie twice, Linda and Nick, and Big Show and Shane in 4 different promo packages could not get over. Negatives, I'd say the lack of actual video packages, because it takes away from things, and trying new stuff when the answer was simply in front of you. I think that's a frustrating thing. We often say WWE's a bit stale or not trying. This right here was where they were trying new things when the answer was right in front of them. So that's going to do it from us. Please do not let this rambling rant of us put you off 2000 WWE. We have a retro Royal Rumble 2000 review with Nathan Fisher. That is a great pay-per-view. We have the No Way Out 2000 review with Scott McLeod. Another great pay-per-view. This pay-per-view is the worst pay-per-view of 2000. The only reason I got the Cairns to do it was because Viscera won a title, and I wanted to talk about it with 2 men that understood the greatness of Viscera. Don't forget, Eat Sleep Suplex Retweet Patreon, $1, $4, $6. You can pledge any of those levels, we'd appreciate it greatly. At Suplex Retweet, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Anchor, iTunes, Spotify and Android for our free section of preview, reviews and interviews, and suplexretweet.com. All that remains is to say thank you to Gary.
Thank you, Ross.
Thank you to Derek.
Cheers, Ross.
And we'll see you for Backlash 2000, which is a much better pay-per-view. Bye now.